I have a question here from a young lady named Quinn, and she tells the tale of several heartbreaks that she's recently experienced and a subsequent runaway that she's decided to embark upon. Long story short, she had a boyfriend for several years. They broke up. Things happened. Don't want to get into the story. But shortly thereafter, she met someone at her job and fell in love again. And they broke up. Only this time the breakup was not as amicable, that's the word she uses, as the first one. This one was a lot more violent. Not necessarily that they were beating each other up, but there was so much more passion and heated arguments associated with their breakup. There was a lot more hurt associated with this rebound relationship. So much so that she decided, I'm pulling out and I'm going to take care of myself. I'm going to go and do something that I want to do because I can't stand this pain. And she left the country. I think she lived in San Francisco, somewhere in California, I believe. And now she lives in France. Now she's doing some work in France where she's teaching English to French children or something like that. But anyway, it's been several months now that she's escaped the tumult of pain and heartbreak in America. She's in France and she's starting to question her motives and is questioning herself with regard to whether or not she should go back to Carlos, which was the last boyfriend, look for new love, or just focus on strengthening herself, becoming the strongest version of herself. But then also there's this conflict between what my heart wants and what my head is telling me. And if I ever do fall in love again, will I be able to deal with the pain associated with the inevitable breakup and heartbreak and the entanglement between me and another person? There's so much pain associated with falling in of and breaking up from circumstances of love. She wants to know what she should do. And I take this question because it's not that unique. You know, when we're early on in our ventures out into relationships with the opposite sex, we're very vulnerable. And in our vulnerability, we open ourselves up to another human being who is probably carrying around just as much hurt as we are, but they too become vulnerable. And then you've got these two warm, soft hearts willing to give themselves to each other, but yet carrying baggage of hurt. And ultimately, at some point, red flags go up, or there's a moment of pain that arises between them, and the whole thing falls apart, goes to shit. Then in that pain, especially if you're still wounded, you can go out and with an inkling of hope that perhaps you can experience once again those warm feelings that you had with your previous partner. There's the rebound and the inevitable hurt once again, only this time it compounds, it builds up. More and more pain associated with the vulnerability and inevitable hurt. Breakup. And then you start going cold and callous. Then there's guilt associated with not making yourself vulnerable again. But also a form of self-righteousness and self-protection starts to arise where you say to yourself at an unconscious level, I won't let that happen again. But in protecting your heart and not letting that happen again, because you don't want to go through the pain, you also forego all the experiences that are only available when you're vulnerable. So what the fuck do you do, right? That's why there are so many songs and poems written about love. It's one of those issues. I'm going to step back for a moment and give you a brief overview of some ideas that are Freudian. I still believe that Freudian psychology holds a lot of weight, especially when it comes to the relationships that we had with our parents and the inevitable heartbreaks that we experience, both pre-Oedipal and post-Oedipal. And what that means is, when I use that term, there is a stage of development early on where we're firmly entwined with the energetic processes physiologically and muscularly, our skin, our body, our physiology, and our energy, our psychology, is very rooted in our mother, right? We come out of our mother. Our mother is our soil. Another one of the reasons why people refer to women as their earth. You know, you ever heard someone say that the woman is my earth. This is my earth. Woman is very earth-like as a metaphor and literally. You know, where do you drop seeds? Into the earth. Very cold, dark, nourishing, as opposed to the male. Anyway. So the experience the very first heartbreak, and I've heard it described this way in a very interesting book, which I don't remember the name of right now. You get 3 chances at getting your heart broken. 3 strikes and you're out. And after that 3rd strike, essentially you start becoming very callous towards the experience, and you develop what you have even described. What was your name again? I'd like to get it right. Quinn. What Quinn experienced as muscular tension associated with the pain, the snowball effect of pain that she started experiencing with the later boyfriends, starts to actually physically grip you. Your muscular system can become a physical prison for your energetic expression, for love to expand in your body. You can really constrict it. Very first heartbreak that we all experience. Every single one of us experiences it. Some take it harder than others. Some, it's a smooth transition. Most of us, it's very hard, especially if you're living in Western civilization. You know, when I say Western civilization, I mean contemporary. You know, the way we live today. Probably a lot of the world. And that is the moment that we are pushed away from our mothers, either from nursing, or from sleeping in the same bed, or from any detachment from the love object relationship that we have with our mother, is a hurt to the child. It's a pain to the child. Now you're a baby, you're an infant most likely, so you don't think about it. You don't want to write a love sonnet about it. You're not going to write a poem about it. You're not going to get depressed about it. You're an infant. You're a baby. But the cells of your body have a form of memory associated with all the experiences that you have in your life, and that pain is in you. Your body doesn't forget. Do you see? Your unconscious, which is rooted in your body, your autonomic nervous system, it branches out of the neocortex, you know, that brain that remembers shit or can be recalled cognitively, goes down into the body, and the body doesn't forget. The unconscious doesn't forget stuff. It's in there. It's in your nervous system. It's just not right here, recallable, right? That's why we can't remember when we're babies. But the experiences that we have when we were babies form us. So there's that first heartbreak, which is inevitable. So now of the 3 strikes, 1 is down. Second strike is what Freud calls the Oedipal complex. And this is where the little girl will fall in love with the father, or the little boy fall in love with the mother. And it's a little bit stranger with the boy and the mother, namely because both sexes come from the mother. So there's like a double heartbreak from the same woman with men, with boys, little boys. But anyway, without going too deep into that, essentially there's another love object relationship with the opposite sex, and the little girl begins to see the father as a love object, falls in love. I've got 4 children. I got 3 girls, and I see this. I've seen it happen, especially my 3rd daughter, Simone. One day she'll watch this and laugh, but yeah, there's this bond of love. She wants to marry me, right? How many little girls want to marry their daddies? Right? We scoff at it as adults, but this is a physical experience that they're having. I want to marry you, Daddy. She'll put on a dress and come down and be like, Daddy, you ready to marry me? And it's normal. It's what happens. But ultimately, Daddy breaks her heart also. I've broken my daughter's hearts. I can't marry my daughter. I mean, I don't even know how you resolve the thing. Boom, 2 down. You walk out into the world, and as you become an adolescent and you want to experience, really what you're seeking to do is to regain that lost puzzle piece from the pain associated with the early heartbreak, usually from that second opportunity with the parent of the opposite sex. You go out into the world and you start looking for boys. Hopefully you make it long enough before that inevitable third heartbreak. And from there on out, what we begin doing, and this is where most of us end up, and perhaps I'm just telling stories and being poetic, but most people can attest to these experiences. We go out in search of love that very first time, usually when we're teenagers or in our early 20s. We have that first breakup because, we're just one of those things. And from then on out, and I'm going to refer to this situation specifically from the feminine standpoint. You want to become vulnerable, but you're scared to become vulnerable, and you no longer give your heart to anyone. Because using contemporary language of individuality, you've got to be strong, you've got to be independent, a strong, independent woman, don't you? Well, you know what? There's something to be said for a vigilantly vulnerable woman. A vulnerable woman, and when I say vulnerable, I don't mean rape me. I mean allows herself to soften to another man, even though she's been hurt in the past, has far better sex than an independent woman, because there's not as much armor built up. This whole idea, even for men, for us to be so independent and strong and callous towards one another, really diminishes our capacity to experience any type of pleasure in life. So here you are in another country now, separating yourself from all the pain that you've experienced associated with the heartbreak, giving your heart up one last time, and then you even ventured out to patch up the wound with another love, and it just got too painful. And you use this language of becoming strong and independent. If I could pull out the exact words here. Do I build my self-identity? Or do I try to regain what I've lost? So on and so forth. What do? I'm going to go out on a limb here, and I'm going to give you some very dangerous advice. And when I say dangerous, it means that you're probably going to be hurt over and over and over and over again. And that is to be vigilant in your vulnerability. Give your heart up once again. It doesn't mean ignore the promptings of your conscious mind, your intellect, when it says, okay, this guy's an asshole, get the fuck out of here. And it doesn't mean give your body up, open your vagina to every single man that warms your heart. But it means allow yourself to experience the vulnerability that's associated with, which is the root of pleasure in life. And the best way to go about allowing yourself to do that is by healing the hurt in your body, right? Because it's one thing to consciously understand something. It's one thing to tell yourself good stories, but it's another thing to heal the memory of pain in the cells of your body. Like I said, your body doesn't forget. Your unconscious doesn't forget. You can tell yourself all the stories you want. You can rationalize all you want about, I'm going to get over this, right? You can say, I'm going to get over this. But really, you, which is all of you, doesn't get over it. And your heart, your body is still in pain. I'm going to invite you to do a series of strange exercises. Very subtle exercises, but ones that might begin to break up some of the rigidity within the region of your body associated with warm feelings, your heart. Warm feelings, loving feelings come from. Interesting, that mammals, the mammalian brain is associated with community, seeing ourselves. With mammals, the eyes came from here to here, right? Birds have eyes here. Mammals have eyes here. One of the things with mammals and with community and love is that our facial expressions, what happens in our face, really contributes to the type of relationship that we have and the availability that we have to one another, right? You can tell someone who has a very cold, hard face by the expressions that they don't allow to happen in their face. Their face becomes very hard and rigid. This particular area, I say from the xiphoid process up through the chest, into the throat and the face, namely this particular area, right? All associated with communion between us. Love. Love happens here, literally. Lay on your bed. I've described this in videos earlier this week. Lay on your bed with your knees bent slightly. This time what I'd like you to do, obviously open your mouth and your eyes as wide as you can. So you're laying there, knees are bent, feet are flat. Right? It's crazy. Stretch those muscles, because these muscles become very tight with our mask of protection. Stretch the muscles in your face. Then take your fingers and bring them right over your heart. So you're here like this. And over time, you're gonna develop a sense of anxiety. You're gonna feel it coming up because you're gonna want to breathe, continue to breathe deep, but your muscular system is going to fight you. What it's actually holding back are the tears associated with the pain that your heart feels. See, we become very rigid in this particular area because guess what this area is also associated with? Crying. If you watch a baby, when a baby begins to cry, the very first thing it does is goes, right? Watch a baby. It's very strange. When my children, I know when my daughter is trying to hold back her tears because she goes like this. Right? She becomes very tense in her jaw and her chin. And that goes right down into her chest. I can see it. I sense it in her. So when she's about to cry and she doesn't want to cry, and I want her to cry because I don't want her to build up the bars of prison, muscular prison, that will not allow her to have pleasurable experiences later on in her life. What I do is I bring her closer. I bring her chest, her heart right to my heart, and I allow her face to go over the side here, and I say, open up your mouth, open your mouth, and let the air out. You know what happens, right? Because she's still very young and pliable. I have to give you and plus you don't have someone, you don't have your daddy, I'm still daddy, to hold your heart and to invite you to do this shit. You've got to do it the way I'm describing it to you now, but I'm giving you a story so that you understand the implications. I hold her heart close to mine. I have my hand on her back, so it's right by where her heart is. And I ask her to open her mouth and let out, and breathe, but also let out the sounds associated with what she's experiencing. This is what it'll sound like. This is what, so her face is over my shoulder, and it'll just continue. And then boom, the tears will come out, and she'll break down. It's what you need. You're no different than a 4-year-old girl, except you've become far more rigid, right? You explained to me about all the pain that you have in your neck when you started going through that second breakup. Right? It's all in here. It's where it all is. So what I'm also inviting you to do is to begin making sounds that are also associated with what you're experiencing. So while you're here, begin going through different, how would you describe it, scales, I guess, you know, do, re, mi, fa, sol. Go high, go low. Find that one that feels really good, and then break it up as you start losing your breath. And what you're trying to do, what we're essentially causing you to experience, is the breaking free of the tears that you're holding back. So your muscular system becomes soft again. You need to cry. I know that sounds crazy, but it's like you just need to cry. You need a deep sobbing, not a tearful cry, but a wailing, sobbing, loud cry, like a baby does, like my 4-year-old does when I remind her that she's allowed to cry. And what that will be is a form of self-soothing that's patching up the pain from the loss in all 3 strikes of heartbreak. You're patching up decades worth of pain when you allow yourself to be soothed through exercises I'm describing right now. It's very difficult to, when you're suffering from this pain, this neurotic holding, to allow yourself to soften to another human being, another man, right? Because you're dealing with so much pain, and it's because of the fucking men. So to bring your heart close and allow that to happen with each other. So you're gonna have to do it yourself. You're gonna have to self-soothe. Another exercise I would invite you to do as you explore this one, explore the sounds, explore you'll probably shake a lot. A lot of times I know when someone's really holding a lot of shit back when they do this, when they do the breathing with their mouth open, and it goes like this. Right? If you find that that's happening to you as you're performing the exercise, stick with it. Stick with it, because you got a lot of shit that needs to come up. So I love when I see that, and I'm working with someone, and I'm like, okay, do some of my breathing exercise. I just watched this area. More going on here, the more baggage has to be dropped. So be mindful of that. Another exercise I would invite you to do that might evoke a bit more softness, which I had something here with me. Ball up a towel, right? Get like a hand towel, ball it up, and as you're laying there, and you've been breathing for a little while, hold that towel in front of you and look at it. This is an exercise that my mentor has done with me, and I've broken down into Sobs doing this one. Look at the towel and pretend it is the heart, your heart, when you were 4 years old. Now don't try to remember anything about being 4 years old, except perhaps what you may have looked like. Right? See yourself when you're 4 years old. Look at that heart and tell it what you would like it to know. What your 4-year-old heart would like to know. What you would like your 4-year-old heart to know about the world. And it's another form of self-soothing, because I don't want to tell you what's going to come up, because whatever's supposed to come up will come up. But ultimately what you might experience is that you're going to talk to that little girl's heart in a way that sounds like, it'll be all right, it'll be okay, you'll survive. And invite her, encourage her to remain vigilantly vulnerable. Heartbreak's going to happen over and over again, but that's life. You still want to subject yourself. You've got to understand, life is hard in that way. Life is going to be painful in that way. But if you bar yourself from the pain, you bar yourself from life. It's far more resourceful, in my opinion, to live life in pain than to not experience life at all, because you're better off dead. And that's it. Good luck.